Welcome to week 4 of my SPL recaps. This week, to be honest, a lot of games where luck was king. A lot of games where the matchups were brutal for either side. But also, and definitely enough to get an interesting video out of this, almost every series had one or two games where the endgame was incredibly interesting. And so, yeah, it will be an episode with a lot of interesting endgames and a lot of things where I just skip over it and say, you know, one person got lucky, but also cool endgames. So stick around for the endgames, okay? We begin week 4 with Troller against Aliss. This is game 1. We see an Aliss against Gengar, and we see a Starmie against Gengar. This is not called Aliss. That's not a Pokemon, that's a person. And we see a switch out to Jinx turn 1, and this is highly unusual. I would imagine the plan was to explode Gengar on Jinx, and then revenge with his own Jinx. Or her own Jinx. But that's not... Obviously there's no Jinx on Troller's team, so Aliss is forced into this slightly awkward sequence where she has to go Jinx on Starmie turn 1, but not the end of the world, you know, you take some chip, it's not tragic, but then Jinx paralyzes, FPs, special drop, miss, special drop again, okay, finally hits, but this Jinx is not in good shape, and now there's an Executor, and this Executor is angry, and Aliss clicks T-Bolt. This can be a number of things. It can be predicting like explosion maybe. It would be weird to explode Gengar this early, but like so essentially the thing is this T-Bolt is probably just saying that this Gengar doesn't actually have Nightshade or Seismic Toss, and T-Bolt is just the best damaging move that Aliss has for Executor. But it can also be taken as some prediction for Starmie for some reason. Like if you fear this Gengar exploding really quickly, even though probably not a good move, then you would go Starmie. I don't know. Nah, going Starmie not a move. This T-Bolt is just an attempt to sack, I guess, to sleep powder, but very unsuccessful because Troller stays in and Psychics, and now Aliss does in fact explode because now she's forced to. But, well, after the T-Bolt crit, this actually brings Executor in Body Slam range, so it's not the end of the world. But we see Lex get crit, and this Lex evidently doesn't have Explosion or Hyper Beam or anything like that, so can only trade a Body Slam back before it dies, which is unlucky for Troller, but that's how it goes sometimes. Tauros is Tauros. However, when Troller's Zone Tauros comes in, this Jinx just gets thrown away. So now this Executor, if it can come in again, it's 26, but if it can come in again, it will get a free sleep, which is huge. Now we see this Snorlax come in, and Troller has no Snorlax of his own. And so he just sacks Starmie, because, well, a lot of people might go Chansey here, because you think, you know, I threaten counter and things like that, like he has to scout for it and whatnot. But realistically, Troller right now has more interest in going Executor than going Chansey. Because Chansey can threaten Thunder Wave, but he doesn't want to Thunder Wave right now, he wants to sleep first. And so if he can sack Starmie to this Lax, Troller is completely happy. And if Aliss switches out to something like Tauros, because she doesn't want to kill Starmie with Lax to avoid this Executor revenge kill, then Troller still just sacks Starmie, and then his Tauros comes in, and he still has the chip advantage in the Bull War, and so we play on from there. So it's probably a clever play from Troller to sack Starmie. However, when this Starmie wakes, he decides that having the fast Pokemon is actually very worthwhile. And so he does go Chansey. This Hyper Beam I don't really like, because I think if this Chansey was counter, she would have come in on Lax, definitely. So I guess this can be a Thunder Wave prediction, but not a huge fan. Now Thunder Wave comes, and now, okay, this T-Wave is interesting because now this Snorlax, this Executor from Troller cannot actually sleep anymore. But what it can do is from 26% explode. And now that Starmie has woken up, Troller is actually fine with exploding this Executor because he still has number advantage after this explosion. Before that, he probably needed to try to get Eggy in cleanly, but due to the quick Mii-Wake, now the dynamics have shifted. Now he doesn't care about sleep, he can't even get it because there's a paralyzed Executor, so might as well just explode. And this is what it does. He gets a switch in clean on enemy Executor, and then boom. And now Troller's Tauros is starting to look really ugly because there's a Lax, but you know, once Lax gets crit, this is already going downhill. And we see here, after this Slam crit, Troller doesn't even bother with T-Wave or with, you know, trying to heal and Hyper Beam Mind Games, nothing like that. He just Ice Beams, and now that this is in Troller's Tauros Hyper Beam range, Aliss's team is looking very weak, very fragile. And so, a good play there to just Ice Beam after the Body Slam crit. Comes in, Hyper Beams. I will say, this 6th, you have to assume that it's Chansey at this point. Because obviously, you know, every team has a Chansey most of the time. So Hyper Beam here, still considerable mind game. Because if Chansey comes in, gets a free T-Wave on Tauros, the game probably ends in Aliss's favor. But not the case. It's a Zapdos, which also could have come in on Hyper Beam and Thunder Waved. So, you know, interesting outcome. But now that Zapdos is revealed, Troller's Starmie is suddenly very strong as soon as this Zapdos falls. Because Troller's Starmie, if this was Chansey, it was not going to break. It was going to get Psychic drops, sure, and maybe it would get one Psychic off on something else, but it was not going to, you know, properly break. And it had to fear T-Bolt, crits, stuff like that, Thunder Wave, blah blah. So now that we know this is Zapdos, this Starmie is actually a lot more threatening offensively, because there's no Chansey. So Troller does actually just go for Tauros damage on Zapdos, and it's good for him because now this Zapdos cannot survive a Starmie, like it's too low HP. And in fact, it can't even survive Tauros due to the crit and lack of paralysis. So, now, we see Starmie come in, Psychic, and now we see the last from Troller, which is a Moltres. Moltres against no Chansey, no Starmie. It's a brutal matchup in favor of Moltres, but you have to realize that Moltres is 278 speed, and needs that agility to actually outspeed Gengar, Jinx, Tauros, and Zapdos. And so, realistically, the only way for this Moltres to come in at any point of the game, it would have been like after Executor Explosion or something, and nothing else would have worked. But after Executor Explosion, when Troller has a Tauros, he has no reason to send this Moltres immediately. Because especially if you assume Chansey last, like, why would you go Moltres? Just go Tauros, which is harder to switch into. So, yeah, this is kind of the problem with Moltres. The teams that are passive and give Moltres turns, they also have Chansey and Starmie most of the time. Which is just painful for Moltres to play against. And the teams that are very offensive, like this one, Chanceless, 2 sleeves, 1 boom, or 2 booms even, maybe 3 booms. Those teams, they just don't give you turns. If you find a turn for agility, congratulations, but it's not going to be a common sight. So, Moltres comes in as this finisher. Agility is on the Body Slam in case of paralysis, but After that, it just has to hit 2 Fire Blasts, and it does. And this does always do 38 to Snorlax. It's crazy how strong Moltres is. Same as Articuno Blizzard, it's super powerful. With a dodge, this could have probably exploded and forced a tie, but there is no dodge, and Troller wins 1-0. What to say? It's an interesting team from Aliss. I will say I personally don't like it, because when you run all these offensive sleepers and explosions, right? You're trying to set up a very fast game, and you want Pokemon that are actually powerful against Tauros, because the opponent will never let Tauros get exploded, right? So whatever endgame you will play, there will be a Tauros on the enemy team. And Zapdos is okay against Tauros, but Zapdos is much, much stronger against those very passive teams. Like, Zapdos wants to abuse Starmie, it wants to abuse Cloyster, it wants to abuse all of those slow passive Pokemon that are weak to electric, or that just they die to a single double pack crit, like a Zam, Chansey, you know, those sorts of teams. But those sorts of Pokemon are also the same targets for your explosions and for your sleep. So I think there just ends up being a lot of overlap where Zapdos just doesn't get the free turns that it wants in a lot of cases. And so I don't like this 6. Obviously it's fine, like Zapdos is also decent at doing 1v1s against Tauros or whatever. But I think this sort of team translates offense. First of all, you cannot afford to run Jinx, because Jinx is just not a Pokemon, and this is a type of structure that relies on 1-for-1 trades most of the time. And Jinx doesn't do 1-for-1s too well, because if it gets paralyzed, it's not blocking sleep. It's not blocking sleep. Like it just dies to 20. You know, you saw this. It didn't even need double edge. It was just a couple unlucky psychic drops, and all of a sudden it couldn't sleep block anymore. So yeah, I don't like Jinx, I don't like Zapdos. I think those sorts of boom spam offensive structures, they're viable, but I think the execution not the best. Personally, of course it's opinion. There are lots of ways to play the game, but for me, I would not bring this. I would not come up with this. And well, Troller brought a Moltres. I talked to him a bit. He was really excited about bringing Moltres, just because it's fun. And yeah, I mean, it worked. It had decent matchup. It won. Hit 2 Fire Blasts. I mean, I think he could have run any number of Pokemon that don't need to hit 2 Fire Blasts to close out this game, but what can you do? It worked out. It's fine. And so Troller wins the first game of this best of 3, and he also goes on to win the second, off the back of a bit of a preparation difference, I would say. He just, you know, Aliss came out of it forced to switch Exeggutor into Ice Beam Starmie, and then, you know, you miss one Sleep Powder and all of a sudden you're in a tragic position, which happened. But it shouldn't have to. Like, if you're switching Exeggutor into ice moves, you're not doing well. So, I would say game 2, Aliss misprepares, just goes for a very risky opening and gets punished. So Troller 2-0, he is now 4 wins, 0 losses, nothing surprising. Aliss 2-2, having a decent campaign. Yeah, that was the first best of 3. Now we have Mako against Groudon, and Groudon is subbing in for Exiline, who has gone 0-3 and not really convinced anybody. But the problem with Groudon is that he has never really played RBY at a high level. He's a DPP main usually, and so he is not expected to do a lot, but Mako is also in bad form. She played the self-admitted worst game of her career against me, and then she also lost in week 3. So this is going to be a shaky series. And game 1, it was just very poorly played from both. I don't want to spend too much time on it because I have nothing nice to say, unfortunately. Game 2 was interesting, and so we will show it. We have these lovely kisses, and then one Jinx waking up, and so it's as if it won the lead mirror all along. Got Blizzards on Chansey, T-Wave, okay. And so we have Mako playing... Mako losing the Sleep Orb, but getting the immediate Ice Beam Freeze on Chansey. And so now, out of this opening, Mako is favored. Because if you count the Pokemon, Groudon has no Chansey, so 4 entire Pokemon plus a Jinx. And Mako has 5 entire Pokemon. So, you know, the Sleeping Jinx doesn't count, the Frozen Chansey doesn't count. But Groudon has 4 plus Jinx, and Mako has 5 actual Pokemon. Because Jinx is really bad. When it's awake, it doesn't switch into much. Gives Tauros free switches a bunch. It's just not a Pokemon. And so, big lead for Mako, thanks to, you know, unfortunate Sleep or fortunate freeze. And we see this from Groudon, which is Slam into Chansey and then boom, Snorlax. Which, well, it's okay, like it's definitely a sequence you can do, but I think it shows misunderstanding of the position, because at this moment Groudon needs to find some way to make up a disadvantage, and trading away your Snorlax is usually not the best way to do that. Best way to do that probably would have been fish with your last Blizzard PPs, then do away with this Jinx, and then try to start spreading paralysis. But definitely freeze was the easiest way to get back in, and after that, Thunder Wave into Snorlax Pleasure. By exploding like this, he just condemns himself to an unfavorable endgame where he just has one less Pokemon, and it's going to come down to, you know, Tauros Wars and things trading one-on-one. And when you're trading 1-for-1, when you're trading Pokemon 1-for-1 in an endgame situation, the person with 4 Pokemon alive will beat the person with 3 Pokemon and a Jinx. And as we see here, that's why the Jinx doesn't count as a whole Pokemon. There's a Zapdos from Groudon, which is interesting because Zapdos can definitely go in on Starmie, but at the same time, this kind of team usually has Rhydon or Jolteon in the last slot. It can also be like a Zam, which would be fine for Zapdos, but Rhydon or Jolteon would be tragic. But from this Thunder Wave, it's definitely not Rhydon or Jolteon. Definitely not. You don't Thunder Wave here if you have a Zapdos check. I mean, maybe you do the Giga Read and try to predict Tauros on Rhydon, but nobody does that. I think we can reasonably guess from this point that this is an Alakazam in the back. T-Bolt comes in, deals 86, which is a lot. We have a Starmie Sack altogether, which really seems to hint that there is no good Zapdos answer on Mako's team, which is often the case when you run this kind of greedy build. It's an Alakazam, it has to get paralyzed as well. And now Rhydon comes out. This is an interesting team. Jinx, Zapdos, Rhydon. Very original combination. You don't want to run this usually because you die to Cloyster, like straight up. Like, you have to switch Chansey into Blizzard and then Chansey gets clamped and then what? It's just very unpleasant against Cloyster, but luckily for Groudon, no Cloyster. And this Rhydon is looking menacing. This, I would say, this switch out has been heavily criticized by spectators because this Alakazam doesn't really do anything. Like, it's paralyzed, so the best it will do is it will tank one hit from something and click Psychic back, and that will be all of its contributions. And so realistically, Mako should just cash in on this one Psychic hit right now on Raiden. And just Psychic and break the sub and just force him to take damage. And even with an FP, you can tank a hit, so you can still probably break the subs. You need to FP twice if Raiden wants to get out with a substitute, which is just extremely unlikely. And so this turn, probably a misplay by Mako. You should definitely not give this Raiden free sub, because now it gets damage on Tauros. And after your Tauros gets damaged, enemy Tauros starts to look scary, which is exactly what happens. There's a Chansey sack, and Tauros comes in a second. Also some words to be said on whether you should finish this with Tauros, because if you finish this Chansey with Tauros, enemy Tauros comes in and you have to switch out. You probably throw Jinx. But if you just go Snorlax on this last turn, then you can set up Reflect even, you can do whatever you want. And Raiden definitely doesn't want to switch in on Body Slam, so Reflect, you basically have a free turn where the opponent cannot really risk switching in on Body Slam, so you can Reflect. And so, yeah, this Body Slam probably also a mistake, because you have immense pressure with Body Slam threat, you have time to go Legs and click Reflect, and Groudon has to, you know, risk a lot if he ever wants to switch that Frozen Chansey out. But instead doing it this way, you have to throw out Jinx. And when you go Lax, you don't have the Reflect up to begin with, you need to set it manually now, which, you know, is not the end of the world, but it definitely didn't need to be done this way. Now, Groudon goes Raiden on Body Slam. If this paralyzes, this game is over. Because Mako can even just go like hard Alakazam on a Raiden that is paralyzed, and Psychic threatens, and it's over. The only thing Mako needs to do is make sure that her Snorlax is in shape to answer Tauros later, but that's it. But it doesn't happen, there is no para, and so now we see what does Mako have for this Raiden. And it turns out that she has Rest. Well, okay, we knew that. Groudon goes fishing for Earthquake crits. And she has Self-Destruct, which I assume most people who are watching this video know, but if you don't know, you can Self-Destruct a substitute, and you won't die in the process. And so Mako has to Self-Destruct to break the subs, but Groudon has this ticking time bomb of Earthquake on Lax. Because when one of these Earthquakes crits, Lax dies. Lax dies to crit EQ plus EQ plus EQ. So one crit is a death sentence for Snorlax. And so what Mako decides to do is she just starts exploding every turn. And now Raiden, even if he Earthquakes, he's going to be at 16% HP and he can't switch in anymore. Or in fact do anything. You know, if you switch out this Raiden, then you give yourself Tauros War odds plus just losing to Alakazam odds. I don't know. It's switching out this Raiden is not it. You have to sack it, because otherwise this Tauros just clicks Hyper Beam twice and wins. So Raiden sack. This line was talked about a bit because a lot of people thought you probably don't need to actually keep exploding. You can just safely rest forever. But I actually think with 10 Earthquake PP and a crit, you're not safe to rest forever. I would say going for this line, which is guaranteed in Mako's favor, I don't think is a bad decision. And so we see this, we see Body Slam on Tauros, and a crit. Now there's a speed tie. Groudon wins it, but he also needs to kill this Zam in one, and he doesn't. Psychic kills. This Psychic is a roll. It's like 42.7 minimum. I remember checking this during the game. It's 44, so it's not totally in their favor, but you know, just to add on to the fun of the situation. Yeah, okay. Interesting endgame with this Raiden against Snorlax. The self-destruct play I really like. I think actually one of the better things from Mako in this entire tournament. But you know, it's hard to say conclusively until someone whips out the calculator and sees what were the odds of earthquake crits and everything. That's an endgame that if you have all the time in the world, I think you can calculate it mathematically, like with certainty. With 5 minutes during the game, I like going for self-destruct because it guaranteed Mako an endgame that was in her favor. Not guaranteed, but in her favor. We're team from Groudon, and not the cleanest play from either player, but an interesting endgame at the very least. And this was game 2 and Mako won it. But game 1 and game 3 were both won by Groudon, and I just chose game 2 because it had this interesting endgame trick. And the other 2 games, I think both players played unoptimally at various moments. For example, Groudon in game 3, he just switched Exeggutor on Tauros very early on a body slam. It got paralyzed, and it was miserable from there onwards. But he still won because, you know, more stuff happened later on. And it's just the sort of plays that just aren't clean, and I don't like to showcase them. In this game, you know, 45 turns, very short, but there's an interesting team, there's an interesting endgame. There are salvageable takeaways from this one. The other 2 were just kind of sad, honestly. So, Groudon, the person who has never played RBY, well, he has, obviously, he's prepared the entire week for this, but still, not a career RBYer. Slots in and gets a win, and Mako, I mean, I've been a vocal critic of Mako as a player since before the tournament. In fact, since last tournament, even when she went 7-2, I thought that was completely, well, not completely, but mostly the result of variance. And I think her price was inflated, her expectations were inflated as a result of last year's results. And I mean, after seeing this series, I feel a little validated because I'm just continue to be unimpressed. But it is what it is. I mean, obviously I hope everybody who plays is happy with their play, but sometimes when the plays are not good, I can't really tell you that they are. I have to say the truth, and it's that Mako is struggling, which is unfortunate. But that's what it is. Hopefully everybody involved bounces back and has a decent rest of the season. But for now, one of the worst series I've seen yet. Mako against Groudon. Groudon 2-1. With a nice self-destruct on Rhydon endgame, I guess. And we get to my own game against Friend of Mr. Golem 120. Game 1, I get frozen by Blizzard turn 1. That is the 3rd time in 4 weeks that I get frozen on the literal first ice move clicked by my opponent. So, you know, that's just nice. And then I probably still could have won if I fought very hard and very well, but it didn't quite work out. I had a mountain to climb, and I only climbed, like, you know, a few of the multiple kilometers that I had to climb to pull out of that one. So unlucky. And then game 2, very good game. Watch this game. Jinx against Chansey, and Thumb just gives up on Chansey turn 1. So immediately I'm very happy, because my prep plans, I expected him to show up with some dumb shit sleep lead, and I thought Jinx, kind of safe. You know, if it's another Jinx, I play the mirror. If it's something else, if it's Chansey, I sleep it, you know. Jinx is just anti-nonsense, and I imagine he would show up with nonsense in the sleeps, because he does that every time he plays me. In Invitational, he's not a Jinx guy usually, but in Invitational he jinxed me twice. So I was expecting him to just mix it up again, and mix it up he did, and he got punished, which is fun. I was very happy with this. Now, there's a chance and there's a Jinx. I throw out a few Psychics in case I get a drop. I wanted to, you know, really force him to switch out and start eating Blizzards on his unparalyzed Pokemon, but not yet. I go Chansey on Starmie. I eat a T-Wave, so now even if this Chansey wakes up, I have my Sleep Block and I'm very happy. And now what I want to do is, for a bit, as long as it's safe, I have free Ice Spam, because there is no Chansey to Ice Spam back. The only answer he has to Ice Spam is going Snorlax. So we see this here, one Ice Beam, no luck. I could also start Thunder Waving, and Troller told me, you know, I think you should have probably just started Thunder Waving. But I see the Ice Bomb free, I see that I still have a 100% unparalyzed Jinx with good odds to freeze. I want to keep the freeze possibility open, because it's such a game changer, and if I land it, it's just instantly a win. Instantly a win. So yeah, I go Lax on Lax. He scouts counter, and then he goes Cloyster. In hindsight, reflect, a bit of a lazy play. I could have body slammed. But it's fine. I mean, it's not the end of the world to lose 19 on Snorlax. Obviously, you'd prefer not to. But I have my own Cloyster, so I go to my Cloyster. And this is the first Clamp Speed tie that I lose in this game. If you want to count them, you can count them for fun. But I won't. I'll just tell you to, you know, as a side game, you know, take a shot every time he wins a Clamp Speed tie, if you want to get very drunk. But, you know, well, that's for later. So he gets Starmie for free. I go back to my Jinx. And I Blizzard, because again, I don't fear T-Wave. This Jinx is useless. As I said before, Jinx not a Pokemon, as I said in another game, in many other games even. I'm sure I've said this many times now. Jinx is not a Pokemon. Jinx, after getting Sleep Off, it's at best used for Sleep Absorb, which I don't need because his Sleeper is sleeping, so, you know, I don't need to Sleep Absorb. And I also have Chansey to Sleep Absorb anyway, to Sleep Block even. And the only other thing it can do is, like, sure, sometimes it can switch it on Clamp, I guess. But not very threatening even then, because there's a Starmie on the enemy team. So this Jinx at best is going to click Blizzard on Starmie, and that's it. That's everything it can do. And so I decide, you know, I have Jinx on Starmie, might as well click Blizzard. Maybe I get T-Wave, maybe I don't. And it turns out I don't. It turns out he tries to predict my Chansey switch, and he goes Lax, and he gets it with a Blizzard. And if this crits, which is not bad odds, Jinx not the fastest, but not the slowest Pokemon at all, crit would very much put him in a bad position. Freeze, obviously, but of course it doesn't happen. Another Ice Move, another no Freeze. We're at 3 now. We are at 4 Ice Moves, no Freeze. 5 Ice Moves, no Freeze. I see Surf and I say, okay, maybe time to get out with this Jinx. I've clicked 6 Ice Moves, 5 from Jinx, 1 from Chansey earlier. None of them are frozen. If one of them did, I was completely winning, but you know, it's unlucky. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Not everybody gets frozen first Ice Move every time. It's only thing I do. So yeah, I go back to Chansey. I hit. Well, okay, this is a nice move on Cloyster. It doesn't count. Clamp, sure. I go Cloyster. He reveals Jolteon, which is nice because my sixth Pokemon is Zapdos. And so now I know I have a Jolteon to work around, and so I can try to keep Zapdos in the back until this is out of commission, things like that. Jolteon is actually incredibly strong against my team. It's like the one weakness. I had Cloyster Zapdos, and so my Jolteon matchup is very poor. So I have to go Chansey and risk double kick, but luckily he doesn't want to get T-waved, so the Jolteon issue is not important yet. I delay it. I get a T-wave off on Snorlax. And now we go Jinx, because I imagine that if this is Explosion, which he has a lot of, with Cloyster, I noticed that he runs a lot of 4 attack lags. So I imagine this probably is exploding, and I decide if it's exploding, I have to Jinx, because anything else is just so much worse. And then if this is Body Slam, you know, sucks to be me, but I force out a Lax at 46% paralyzed, which is not bad at all. And if this is something like Rest, I still have pressure, I get to click more Blizzards or Psychics, and we're all fine. And it is rest. So Earthquake rest, not a set he runs very often, but nevertheless, I'm there. I click Blizzard, no crit. I click no, not quite. I don't click Blizzard, I full para. Now I go Chansey. I heal up. I believe I T-Wave this on the wake. Yeah. And now I go back to my lax, because this is Salami Q, so Reflect very strong. But also, when it's paralyzed, I can even Body Slam, because what's it going to do? Like, if it reflects, now it has to rest first, so I can go Cloyster, put on some pressure, maybe Blizzard again, I don't know. So Body Slam is free, Cloyster comes in, no para. You can add the no para on top of the 7 ice moves with no freeze. That's a clamp tie that, well, he technically loses, but practically it's even better, because he gets the clamp off and he burns a clamp PP from me, so, you know, take another shot. Clamp. I go Jinx, Jolteon. Okay, so here I know that this Jolteon is going to be a pain in my ass. And I know that this Jinx is useless. And so I say, well, I know this is very low odds to work, but I might as well Blizzard again. And I Blizzard again. And like maybe he double kicks expecting Chansey, because staying in with Jinx on potential T-Bolt crit or full para, super risky. Maybe he double kicks because he doesn't expect that, but no, he doesn't. Blizzard again, again no crit, no freeze. That's 8 moves with no freeze, which is great. It's just lovely. So double kick finally comes on Chansey, and then he T-Bolts, which is, I don't know what he was trying to call here. Perhaps a 6th Pokemon that I don't have, but I accept the gracious offer that allows me to soft boiled up more safely than double kick. And now this T-Wave is because, well, I'm still deathly scared of this Jolteon just going complete double kick mode and trying to kill my chance, because as I said, this Jolteon is a massive threat, whereas if he predicts my T-Wave and goes to his own legs, I still have a Cloyster, I still have a Lex. It's not great because they're both chipped, but it's playable. So I go Lex, I Slam, Cloyster, finally something. I get a secondary effect, wow. Paralysis on Cloyster. Now what this means is I can press on this rest, because she surely has to rest. He can explode or Blizzard if he's a maniac, but more likely than not he will rest. And here I make one of very few things that I think are actual errors in this entire game. This is going to be a very long game, by the way. So this is the first and probably one of the only turns that I would classify as a misplay. Here I have to go Tauros on rest because it's T-Bolt and it presses the shit out of his entire team. If I get a para on Starmie, it's game over. My Tauros is just incredibly threatening. And if I don't get a para, then, you know, sucks to be me. But that is how I need to win this game. T-Bolt Tauros is a menace for his team. And so here I had a great chance to send it. But instead I send Zapdos, which still pressures Cloyster and still forces T-Wave on Jolteon, which is great, because this was my mindset. This is why I went Zapdos. I thought Jolteon is very fucking annoying. If I T-Wave it, I get it out of commission, and my Tauros will have more of an easier time later on because it cannot be revenge killed by Jolteon anymore. That was my logic. But it's probably bad logic because Jolteon is not like it switches in on Tauros. So Tauros still does a lot of damage, even if it does get revenge killed. So yeah, Zapdos, not my finest moment, but nonetheless a fine play, because now I do get this T-Wave on Jolteon. Obviously, you know, I T-Wave done a Pokemon that was sleeping, but if you leave Cloyster on Zapdos, you're a maniac, so... now that this Jolteon is paralyzed, I go here. Oh, sorry. I just remembered why he clicked T-Bolt here. I have not revealed my fourth move, and it very well could be counter. So his Scout's counter here, turn 37, and again he doesn't want to double kick because he doesn't know that my fourth move is not counter. My fourth move is Seismic Toss. So from now he will have a lot of freedom to just double kick all over me, which is scary. But there's a Lex at 46, paralyzed, and I have a Lex at 37, unparalyzed. Now, here, I have this Lex at 10%. I decide I probably cannot heal this up. It is Reflect Rest, but I would have to Reflect and then I would have to Wake it, and Rest allows enemy Tauros in, and my Cloyster is already chipped, and if it gets crit it's very ugly. I don't really want to play into that kind of line. So I decide, let's do away with my trusty Snorlax. Let's Hyper Beam to try and get the roll, but of course, I miss. And so, enemy Lex body slams and I die with no damage dealt. If this Lex was dead to the Hyper Beam roll, obviously best scenario. If this Lex was at 4% paralyzed from the Hyper Beam low roll, Chansey is very happy because it doesn't have to respect Snorlax anymore. I can just Seismic Toss and I don't have to worry about that. Chansey's main issue becomes Starmie or Cloyster, both of whom are Paralyze is vulnerable. Starmie is even Ice vulnerable. Jolteon is obviously not bad against Chansey Rest Jolteon, but it lets my Tauros in, so a lot of nice things happen if this Hyper Beam hits. And Ice Beam, 8 Ice Beams, you can argue, yeah, sure, not that unlucky, but 90% Hyper Beam to hit. Tough. With paralysis chance as well. This Lex, if it FP'd, I was fine. But alas, I clamp to make sure this thing doesn't rest, because it can live a Blizzard and rest up. So I clamp it to make sure it stays low HP, and it does stay low HP. And now I have to make some kind of play, because if I go, the obvious move here is Zapdos on Starmie or Cloyster, but the obvious move is also for him is to predict it and go Jolteon. And so there's a lot of mind games here. I would say Jolteon maybe not the obvious move. The obvious move is probably Starmie, but Jolteon is a very reasonable move. And so I stay and clamp again, and because I'm scared of this Jolteon. As I said, I am very, very worried about this Jolteon, and I just want it to die. So now it's at 50 paralyzed, which I'm very happy about, because it means if it switches in on a Zap crit, it dies. So I'm starting to see the win conditions. Well, Tauros obviously, but also the Zapdos win condition is starting to materialize. So I'm very happy. This clamp is huge. I get great damage. I clamp again. Oops, sorry, that was turn. Might have been. Nope, that's too late. Sorry. Oh, that's the big spoiler on screen. Oof. Okay, turn 50. Cool. Turn 50, I said. Yeah, I clamp again on Cloyster switching. Sorry, I clicked reset by accident instead of last turn. Yeah, Cloyster switches in. And, well, here he wastes a Sleep Turn, but it's not the end of the world. I go Tauros. And I reveal... I go Tauros because I want to force this Cloyster down at this point, because I think my Cloyster will have a much easier time, and my Chansey as well, if this Cloyster just fucking dies. And so I say, against Zapdos he's always switching out, but against Tauros he's probably staying in, and if I get a crit with T-Bolt, the game is suddenly much easier for me. But of course I don't, because why would Tauros crit? That's just not what happens, right? So he wakes up. I go back to my Chloe and take another shot. Oh no, never mind. This is one of the ones I actually do get. Okay. So now enemy Cloyster, definitely not a Tauros check anymore. My Tauros is the star of the show, or should be. If I hit this clamp, I can go Zapdos and things start to get dangerous, because his Jolteon is very low on HP and all of that. But I missed this clamp, and so I have to... Okay, here I have to play defensive and go Chansey. This Starmie is very threatening, I have to go Chansey. It's the only reasonable play for me to make, which is why I expect him to make the only reasonable play for him to make, which is go Lax on Chansey. And I say, okay, this is an annoying matchup, there's a Jolteon against my Zapdos. I need to find some advantage somewhere. This read seems rather safe. Let's finish this Lax once and for all. So I stay in and I Blizzard. But alas, he stays in T-Bolts on my Chansey. And if he had allowed my Chansey to switch in for free, which he did, I would be switching in and Seismic Tossing, which is just mighty annoying for all of his team. Ice Beam can just fish on this Starmie forever. Snorlax cannot switch in on any damage move. Cloyster, Seismic Toss and T-Wave both very annoying. Jolteon I force rest with one attack. Giving me free Chansey is just very unpleasant. And I suppose he can go to his own Chansey, but then, you know, welcome Tauros. I'm very happy with that. So I really expect him to make a play against this. But he doesn't, and I get T-Bolted for my trouble. And you can add this Blizzard to the list of ice moves that didn't freeze. So now here, Chansey on Starmie. I say... What do I say? I don't remember. I think I soft... Oh, I T-Wave even. Yes, I T-Wave, because I imagine, right, that I have free Ice Beam on Starmie. Because obviously I have free Ice Beam on Starmie. Soft T-Bolt doesn't really threaten me. Even at 51, I need to get, you know, 2 crits or FPs or, you know, I'm relatively safe with Ice Beaming. And so I imagine he's not going to go Lax now, is he? But he is. He does this and he risks just complete death by a totally free Ice Beam. So I T-Wave because I expected him to Cloyster. Or at worst stay in, and T-Wave's Paralyzed Starmie is also great for my Cloy. You know, not right now because my Cloy is at 5%, but if I ever get it switched in later on, it's great for my Cloy. So I T-Wave again, expecting his Cloy, or maybe a stay in, maybe trying to fish Surf Crates. I definitely don't expect Snorlax because Ice Beam is so free, but alas. I think his prediction is soft-boiled, but I am in a very offensive pressure situation. I don't want to just pen that on soft-boiling. So it works out sort of by accident for him, I think. I don't know. I mean, it worked, so I can't really argue, but I'm annoyed because both this T-Bolt and this Lax, I don't think they were good plays objectively, but it is what it is. Now I go Tauros because I imagine he will rest. He FPs. I don't know what he clicked, but he FPs. And now, turn 59 is the turn that decides the game, unfortunately. And I will show you what I mean. If I tell you, if you've not seen this game, and I ask you to tell me what do you think will happen on turn 59, I can give you 50 guesses. I don't think you would get this once, based on this information. Earthquake, Rest, Body Slam. I don't think you would ever guess what happens next. So I will just show it, just to let it sink in. And then we will talk about the intricacies of this turn, okay? I Body Slam. He gets Hyper Beam crit, dealing 100. I have not calculated the odds of this, but I would hazard this around 2% for my Tauros to die on this turn. It can even move and get a critical with Hyper Beam, that's fine. But for it to deal 100, that's very unlikely, because there's a roll. First of all, the roll isn't always 100. I think it's Snorlax favored, but not always 100. So that's the basis. Then, obviously the critical hit Lax is 30 out of 512, which is roughly 5%, 5.8% I think to crit. Then he's paralyzed, And then he has to avoid a body slam crit. And then he has to actually also hit the Hyper Beam, which is not 100 accuracy. So, yeah, around 2% for this for my Tauros to die this turn. And, well, if we go back one turn, if we go back to this situation, first of all, I imagine here he clicked Hyper Beam. I have to imagine he Hyper Beam. Maybe it was Rest. Rest was obviously the best case for me because Sleeping Snorlax is of no threat to Tauros, so I can just Body Slam and something falls. I get a kill, guaranteed. Well, I guess he can Ghost Star me, but Crit or Para both kill it, so he probably has to sack Chansey and then Ghost Star me. Which, you know, sack Chansey, not the biggest amount of progress, but definitely progress. So that's what happens if he Hyper Beams instead of... If he Hyper Beams on this turn 58. I don't know what it clicked. If he rests... Oh, sorry, no. That's what happens if he rests on turn 58. If he Hyper Beams on turn 58, then obviously I just kill the Slax. I take some chip on Tauros, but not the end of the world. So, you know, yeah. That's turn 58. Turn 59, I can Hyper Beam, but if he goes Cloyster, it's doomed. And above all, I thought he would just go Chansey. Because 69% is actually great odds. Well, not great odds, but very reasonable odds. I think about 50% to live this Hyper Beam and then safely switch to Starmie. And that seems easily the safest play available to friend of Mr. Golem. And so I Body Slam because I imagine if he goes insane, goes Cloyster on predicted Hyper Beam, and explodes me, that's awful. So I don't want that. And if he goes reasonable, goes Chansey on Hyper Beam, and then lives and goes Starmie, this Tauros Witch-In comes with no actual progress made. I just take a whole chunk of HP off of a Chansey that is already practically dead because it's sleeping. So I also don't want that Hyper Beam scenario. And I decide Hyper Beam on Lex, obviously great, but if I just slam, this thing is probably Reflect Rest. What's it going to do to me? Worst case, I get Body Slammed. If he moves, I get 30% chip. That's really not so bad. That's my thought going into this turn. That the worst thing that can happen is 30% from Body Slam. And in all reasonable universes and timelines that you can imagine, that is the worst thing that can happen. But unfortunately, I am playing against a guy who runs Slammy Q Hyper Beam Rest, which is just a bad Snorlax. I don't know why you would run this. I'm running against a guy who runs that set, and I'm running against a guy who doesn't get crit, doesn't FP, doesn't miss, crits, and hits the roll. And that's the world I've been living in this tournament. Week 2 and now week 4. I don't have wood. I mean, I understand that nobody likes to see me, you know, whine about luck. But when this is what happens to me, what else can I do? Like, what do you want me to talk about? Yeah? Like, what can I do? What do you want me to say? So my Tauros is dead, and now I have to win against this Jolteon. And I need to remind you, I have nothing that is good against Jolteon. If Jolteon were to just sit on the field forever from here, he double kicks Chansey down, he paralyzes and kills Zapdos with T-Bolt and never dies because it has rest. And he kills Cloyster whenever it's awake. It has to respect Explosion, but other than that, this is a 5% Cloyster. Yeah, I have a mountain to climb from turn 59 because of this completely and utterly unreasonable incident. So I go Zapdos because I say, you know, now I have to play for a choke pretty much, or for a colossal sequence of outplays. And my one hope is that he goes Jolteon and gets crit, and I immediately win the game. That would be nice for me. But alas, he goes for a very reasonable lax sack, and now he goes Jolteon. And now there is this thing where I have to try to kill this Jolteon with either Zapdos or Chansey, and neither has great odds. But he will always switch this Jolteon out of Cloyster because he realizes it cannot let this get exploded. So I can use my Cloyster to pressure it out, but my Cloyster doesn't actually kill anything because enemy Cloyster walls it forever. So I have to go back to Zapdos on enemy Cloyster and get some damage on Jolteon. But that never breaks either, because like he just walls me forever, essentially. And so how the hell am I going to try to win this game? Well, let's see. I go Jinx on Jolteon, because Psychic is a lot of pressure. So I force it out with 0 Tonic Burn, which is a start. Now I switch back Chansey in, because by now I know this guy knows that Jolteon is sacred. He cannot expose the Jolteon to anything. He has to keep it safe, and I have to play as aggressively as possible. And so I do that. I say this Jolteon is not risking Psychic crit, because that's one of the only ways for him to lose now. So he's going to switch out. So he's going to go Star me, presumably. So this is a good opportunity for my Chansey to heal. And it is. And Tauros comes in, and it's a full HP Tauros. On top of the Jolteon Cloyster situation, I also have to deal with a full HP Tauros. So you know, it's not an easy task, but the first thing is surely to paralyze it. And now I can sack Jinx, and I can bring my Cloyster back, which is lovely. I mean, if this is T-Bolt, then, you know, of course I can't. But it body slams, so it isn't. And it 256 is basically NFP, so, you know. Now I wake my Cloyster on enemy Jolteon, because I can't really pressure this right now. And so enemy Jolteon burns a turn, but my Cloyster is back. Okay, now I can play. Now I have a switch into enemy Tauros. I am not in a rush in a defensive rush. I'm only in an offensive rush because I need to kill this Jolteon before it kills me. So I'm very much in a panic in terms of trying to pile on enough offensive pressure. But defensively I'm okay. I have Cloyster for Tauros, and Jolteon takes a while to actually kill things when it has to play so respectful of Boom and so respectful of, you know, paralysis and stuff. So I Blizzard. Can I win a Clamp Tie? Maybe if I win this Clamp Tie, this Cloyster goes down, and then my Cloyster can do something. Maybe that's a win condition. But can I? No. No, I can't. Take another shot. Now I go Chansey on Sleeping Cloyster, because going Zapdos here, it doesn't achieve anything, actually. It just lets its Jolteon in for free. I can paralyze it again, but it's just not... It's not great. I want to heal my Chansey on this turn. Or even better than that. Okay, so... why do I T-Wave here again? Okay, what am I doing? Oh yeah, I T-Wave on Wake, because I imagine he's just absolutely killing me if he wakes for free. And so I decide I want to T-Wave him to not give him a Wake for free. But okay, this is actually another probably bad click. Like objectively bad click. Because he has this Tauros. And well, my thinking was that he's probably not going to take damage on Tauros too happily, and if he goes Jolteon, then I just T-Wave again. If he goes Starmie, I'm happy. If he stays, I'm happy. That was my thought process, but yeah, no, he totally can go Tauros, and I missed that move, and my T-Wave was bad as a result. So, unlucky, but I have this Cloyster, so it's not the end of the world at all. I doubled Zapdos because I have to imagine that he goes back to his Cloyster here. Which he does. And now I can get a T-Bolt off. And now I can paralyze this Jolteon again. And it's imperative that I keep this Jolteon paralyzed at all times. Because if it's ever healed, if it's ever unparalyzed, he probably just wins. He kills my Zapdos, he kills my Cloyster, he kills my Chansey with double kicks. So I have to T-Wave this as much as possible. And at the same time, this Zapdos, he can't really afford to fuck around in front of it, because if he double kicks and I get a crit, all of a sudden he's in danger. So I go Cloyster. Because actually I do expect... I think I predict a double kick here. Because my chance is low, and so double kick is actually, he's at 82, so he's, even if I get crit, or if I crit him, he can still just rest again. So I think, I do predict double kick here actually, which goes against what I just said, but in the game I predicted D kick. And the thing is, I leave a T-Bolt from full, and paralysis is bad, but not exactly a complete death sentence, because I still have explosion threat on Jolteon. So with those factors considered, I go Cloyster because I want to clamp this down. And obviously I actually clamp. Wow, I thought I would have doubled there. But I'm deathly scared of this Jolteon, so not doubling on it too much also makes sense. Because staying in is a relatively low risk for him. Obviously 10% chip is not great, but it's not the worst. I guess he just played hyper safe fearing explosion, which makes a lot of sense. So that was not great for me. But now I have clamp on Cloyster, and I see, okay, well, yeah, I don't know what to say. Cloyster wakes up, but it's in T-Bolt range. It's not the worst thing that could happen. Now Jolteon comes in on Zapdos. Again, I go Cloyster, expecting rest this time, and he does rest. But now I have to, again, I have no way to progress with my Cloyster past his Cloyster, so I just have to keep doubling on it. This time I actually do it. Now a T-Bolt, I get a crit, and this is 0 turns, 65%. So he will get 1 turn to burn, where I can T-Bolt for some damage, and then I can T-Wave on the wake up, and then if I get like an FP or a crit or something like that, I have odds to kill this. So here I T-Wave it, and here I need FP plus crit to actually kill, which is, not too likely, but it's possible, which is better than nothing. And I go for it, and I get the crit. I don't get the FP, pain. But I can T-Bolt again, and I crit again. And I need 3 crits to actually kill this, sadly. So when it wakes up, I have to respect Thunder Wave and then go back to Chansey. And now this Jolteon is lower than me if I T-Wave it, so he has to respect T-Wave. His T-Wave switch in is Tauros. I Seismic Toss to deal some damage to this Tauros, because I have to get this Tauros down eventually if I want my Chansey to be able to play long term. So I start dealing damage to this Tauros with Seismic Toss, which is a start. And I have my Cloyster, which thankfully is only really useful for this, and for Boom Threat. I Blizzard, because I don't really feel like doubling. Again, I have to pick my turns very carefully with my doubles, because the moment Zapdos gets paralyzed, it's probably game over. So I Blizzard, knowing that worst case, maybe I Freeze start me, maybe I win a Clamp tie. But no, you can take another shot. I stay in because I don't really want to take damage on Zapdos, and this is not the end of the world. Okay, I win one finally. Although he does go faster, but he does miss, so that's favorable for me. And now he starts switching around a bunch, and I go Zapdos on Chansey. And now my Zapdos has a chance again to do some progress, but it probably needs to T-Wave Jolteon on the switch in if I want to make progress, which I do. Now again, crit plus para gives me the game. Can I find it? I find para. Now crit or para wins me the game. No, rest again. Now I Drill Peck. Drill Peck and T-Bolt are basically the same damage. They have all the same rolls. So I start saving T-Bolt PP because I've used 9 of them and I don't want to run out of T-Bolt against Starmie or Cloyster. That would be a very silly way to lose the game. D-Peck has 32, so I'm fine to D-Peck a bunch. So I D-Peck. It wakes. Again I have to respect T-Wave. Again he T-Waves. Again I have to respect Tauros, but he goes Chansey. which I don't know why you would want to try to wake this. You're just giving me more chances. And now I imagine that after I've T-waved this Jolteon on the switch in twice, I imagine that he will stay. And he does stay. And thankfully the sleep is long. And, you know, obviously there was also a crit chance here, so quite a few chances in my favor. Here I D-pack again, no luck. I imagine that he will rest here, but I don't really have a safer play than Chansey. It's good against you, it's good against rest because I have Seismic Toss damage on this. And I can even heal up. Now, I predict that he will not want to eat a T-Wave, I think. So yeah, I Ice Beam actually, because that's another win condition I have. If I land Ice Beam Freeze on Jolteon, it's not likely, but I win on this pass. It's about as likely as those crit plus para scenarios that I need from Zapdos. So Ice Beam on Jolteon also a win condition. And it also covers the Tauros Switch, which I by now I know he likes to go Tauros on this Chansey. This is just based on past experiences. And so he does go Tauros on Chansey. I go Cloyster on Tauros. No need to risk, you know, crit FP here or anything stupid. I Blizzard. This is an important clamp tie, so of course I lose it. Take another shot. I stay in because, again, I don't really want to take damage on Zapdos, and I don't really want to stay in with Zapdos on clamps, because it just lets him go Jolteon for free, and it's just ugly. So I stay in, try to run out the clamp, and see if I can win a tie, maybe, you know, that rare event. But you can take another shot, of course. So now that my Cloyster is on its deathbed, I begrudgingly go Zapdos. He hits Clamp, of course. Thankfully it's a 2 turns, and so when Jolteon comes in, I get a T-Bolt crit and I get a T-Wave off. And I can still play the game, somehow. I go Cloyster expecting probably a safe rest, or definitely not a T-Wave. I go Cloyster saying, you know, maybe if he FPs or if he rests, Cloyster here is still alive. In any other scenario, this Cloyster is dead. So, I stay in thinking maybe he gets greedy and maybe he just thinks, I will T-Bolt this. And then he FPs and then I explode him. That's the kind of out I have to play for. But he doesn't get greedy, he goes his Chansey, which is the correct move. And I explode and I lose my Cloyster without having really achieved much. But there is a low HP Cloyster now, there is a low HP Tauros, and there is a paralyzed Jolteon, so let's see. I go Chansey on Starmie. I go Chansey here because I imagine he will probably want to go Jolteon first. Because if I find like Zapdos on Starmie or something like that, he is running out of T-Bolt switch-ins, so I imagine he will Jolteon first, but he reads me here, he goes Starmie, which is a good play. Ultimately not so good because, well, I guess Starmie is also good against Zapdos in that he can just toss Starmie for T-Bolt, or for Thunder Wave, sorry, on my T-Bolt. So that was also probably a good reason to go Starmie. But now, on Starmie, I doubled Zapdos because clearly he doesn't want this T-Waved. So clearly he will go to the other option against Chansey that he has, which is Paralyzed Tauros or Cloyster are both options, and they both die to Thunderbolt. And so here I get finally a kill. He throws Starmie out. Which, whew, I had to work for this, but I get it. And now there's just this fucking Jolteon in the way. I T-bolted because I imagine he's clicking rest and I maybe can get a chance to fish. He FPs. Now I don't fish. Why do I not fish here? I think I just see that Chansey Seismic Toss is starting to look a bit juicy. But I think probably this is an error because on Chansey it just goes Cloyster and explodes. And so I will always have to double out of Cloyster switching. And it will always end up being Zapdos trying to fish on Jolteon. So I think probably it was correct. Well, okay, I mean, Okay, he T-waved, so evidently I did the right thing, but now I have to double on Cloyster, because Cloyster Boom is very scary, as I explained. But I don't actually even have to do that, evidently, because he stays again, predicting my double. Wow. Oh, did I really predict a stay-in? Oh, that's incredible. Okay. So now this Jolteon is at 15%. And if I go Zapdos as it FPs, I win. But if I go Zapdos as it rests, I waste a lot of pressure. So, and if I stay with Chansey as it FPs, I also win most of the time. So I decide all in all my best play is to stay and Seismic Toss to try and keep this pressure on. And I do. I Seismic Toss. I Seismic Toss. He goes Cloyster. I Ice Beam. How the hell does he... Oh right, this Zapdos leaves Explosion. I forgot about this detail. Okay, sorry, this Zapdos actually leaves Explosion. So I go and do that, because obviously he's exploding. What else would he do? So now there's this 40% Jolteon. I T-Wave it. And I see here that, well, my odds, I still need, like, even crit plus para. Well, I need crit plus para right now. Or like 2 paras, or yeah, something like that. So I decide the odds are not great, and I decide he's most likely T-bolting. So I can just go Chansey and pressure more with Seismic Tosses like that. But no, he goes for rest, so missed opportunity to fish, but not the worst, because still, this Chansey has Seismic Toss pressure, and it's not a complete joke. Now, this Jolteon will wake. I can T-Wave it. But if he goes Tauros on T-Wave, he wins. Because this Tauros will Body Slam my Chansey, and then it will threaten Hyper Beam, and I have nothing for Hyper Beam. So T-Wave for me is extremely dangerous in case he goes Tauros. And T-Wave on Jolteon is very nice for me, because I become faster than Jolteon, and so I can Seismic Toss it to no end. I can always heal up from double kicks. T-Wave on Jolteon would be lovely. Not winning, but one of the best chances to win I've had after that Tauros turn 59 when I got crit. After that, my chances of winning have always been very low, and if I land a T-Wave on this Jolteon, they skyrocket. But I have to play around this Tauros, and so I Seismic Toss. And so now he double kicks, and I have to once again worry about T-Wave on Tauros. So what do I click? I believe I Ice Beam. Yes, I Ice Beam. Because I think he's getting in a risky spot where Ice Beam crit could ruin him. T-Wave into FP could ruin him. He might realize that he has to do something, and if he does realize that, he probably goes Tauros on T-Wave. And Tauros on lack of T-Wave is not even bad, because Hyper Beam on Chansey into double kick from Jolteon has decent odds of killing. And so I just think I have to respect the Tauros play. And even if he doesn't do it, Ice Beam here, crit kills and wins me the game. Freed wins me the game. So it's not bad odds. But alas, that's the 10th, 11th ice move that doesn't freeze of the game. So he rests again. Now I Seismic Toss again. I FP. And now again I have this opportunity to Thunder Wave the Jolteon and become faster and have a great position. And again I expect that he might Tauros this time around. But no, I just FP. And on this turn 144, I again expect Tauros, because even after 2 FPs, it's still true that if I paralyze him here, I'm faster and I can soft boiled. And after I soft boiled, who knows what happens? Maybe he FPs and maybe he goes Tauros, but I just heal and then he FPs on Tauros. Like, he gives me odds to win if he lets me T-Wave. So I imagine he would not let me T-Wave Jolteon. Like if he switches this Jolteon out and goes Tauros, he's just safe. He wins the game. Especially now that my chance is at 70. He can just Body Slam and I'm in double kick range after that. Like, what do you want me to do? Tauros is safe even on Ice Beam. So I really imagine he goes Tauros, and I really want to click Ice Beam to try and prevent that danger. But alas, with I've lost count of my ice moves, 11 or 12 presumably. Still doesn't freeze. And I lose this game. And it's really annoying. It's really rather annoying because, well, I've received compliments for this game from just about everybody. But as you can see in the team chat, I am 0-6 in my last games against friend of Mr. Golem across global championships, semifinals, invitational, I believe it was loser bracket, and now SPL. I just lost the last 6 games, just 3 both 3s, 0-2, 0-2, 0-2, and I swear to God, all of them look like this. Just nothing my way, everything is way, either in luck or sometimes in terms of completely ludicrous matchups across those 6 games. But in this case, it was just two games where I just got nothing and he got everything. And, well, it's particularly frustrating to lose when you play really well and everybody is telling you, yeah, you did well. And, well, it's nice to be acknowledged by people, by humans. But it would be nicer to not be 1-3. Because it was like my team lost a point because of this game. We lost the week 4-6. Could have been a 5-5. I'm 1-3 because of this game. I don't know. It just feels really bad that now I have had 2 sets in 4 weeks where I play out of my goddamn mind and my game does not let me have it. So, well, I don't want to be too self-celebratory, but this is just heartbreaking, you know. I don't know what to say. Sorry if you want to see unbiased commentary. Obviously, you're not going to get that on my own games. Yeah, that's all I have. I don't know what more I could have done. I played 1/4-7 turns of Pokemon with 2 mistakes. Maybe 2.5. I just don't know what to say. 12 ice moves that with no freeze. There's no like Super Saiyan. It's just depressing. And yeah, I mean I will keep doing these recaps, but this game is really eroding my will to keep trying. But thankfully I'm very passionate, so there will be more, one every week, even if things keep going like this. So you will get your dose of RBY, and sometimes it will be depressing, as is the case today. Serpi against Nails, game 1, Serpi wins on luck. He gets very lucky and wins, which to be fair, he's owed some good luck, I think, because he's been rather unlucky so far. Generally, Serpi, not always unlucky, but against Troller, he got no breaks. Against Mako, I believe week 1, he lost a game on luck. Did he? I don't really remember. But yeah, I definitely lucked him game 1. Troller definitely lucked him game 1. So about time Serpi gets lucky. And that was game 1. But this is game 2. Because obviously I will show you a game that is not an auto win due to luck. Gengar and Starmie. See, switch to Chansey turn 1 on Psychic, no Blizzard. So Sing hits. It's interesting to see no Blizzard on Starmie lead, because usually you want Blizzard to try and punish those Sing chances at least a bit of the time. But no such thing. And we see that Serpi sleep sacks his Gengar. And it's a Psychic Gengar, which is a weird move choice. The justification I've heard that has convinced me the most for why would you run Psychic over Nightshade is that Jolteon is starting to pick up in usage, and Exeggutor not so much. So you can drop Nightshade to deal more damage to Jolteon and drop chances and stuff. I'm still unconvinced, but that would be the reasoning. So now they play this Ice War, except Nails goes Cloyster, and he goes Cloyster on a turn where he Ice Beams instead of Salt Boiling, so now Chansey will have a slightly difficult time healing up due to this Clamp. So there we go. Nails uses the Clamp to get one Ice Beam in. I have to question whether this was the most efficient use of a turn. Like, you can just go Snorlax, no? And Chansey can't switch in anymore. You can try to put on physical pressure that way. But no, Nails is happy to fish 2 Ice Beams. And he doesn't get them. Sucks. Blizzard, again, no luck. But, I mean, clicking Blizzard on Thunder Wave is just questionable in my opinion. Like, I get that you want to Ice Beam, but just Ice Beam with your Chansey, man. I don't know. Still, the Cloyster is safe from freezes because this is Sing Ice Beam Thunder Wave, so Cloyster can sit here all week and click Blizzard. But I don't like that it's vulnerable to Snorlax now. And I believe what Serpi is trying to do here is he actually wants to get his Chansey frozen, because after that happens, his Starmie will be completely safe. If his Chansey is frozen, Cloyster has basically no pressure on it, and this Chansey will also have no pressure on it, especially if it's counter Chansey. It will just completely do nothing. And so I believe Serpi's intent is actually to completely give up his Chansey. But now we see that there's a Zapdos, and we see that Nails has brought Starmie, Cloyster, Alakazam. And, well, I've brought Nails' team before. I've brought these 6. They're usable. But they have this crippling Zapdos weakness that really fucking sucks. And, yeah. It's going to be a tough game. Alakazam gets T-Waved on the switch in. Sucks to be him. Serpi again just tosses this Chansey out for, you know, basically, it's basically like of no value to him, which is honestly fair. Gets another Ice Beam off, but yeah, at this point he just even completely gives up on freezing. He just says, you know, fuck it, I'm here, please freeze me already so I can move on with my life. But doesn't happen. And now Serpi has an Alakazam problem. And I think to avoid this Alakazam problem, he should have had Surf Starmie or Seismic Toss over Ice Beam on Chansey. But he has neither, and so now his Alakazam switching is Snorlax, who basically dies to a crit. Well, not basically, but you know, 60% of Snorlax is a big fucking chunk, and it can die to Psychic crit into Psychic again. So, very precarious position despite the Zapdos. Serpi should probably not engage in those Chansey tomfoolery things. He should just go Zapdos as much as possible, keep up as much offensive pressure as possible. And that's the sort of game that he should play, and I believe it's the sort of game that he will play starting momentarily. Gets unlucky with the Lax crit. But then when his Chansey also gets crit, he says, you know, I don't really care about this Chansey, I will Ice Beam for the pressure on this Lax. Which is completely the correct play, and I love it. But the Snorlax doesn't Hyper Beam, the Snorlax clicks Rest. And so now Serpi can go to his own legs and heal it back up as well. The Chloe wakes up, but the Chloe has 2 Blizzards left. So I love this play as well from Serpi, very clever. He guesses that Nails probably doesn't want to burn his Blizzard, because this Cloyster is just a complete sitting duck against a lot of things. It can basically only explode. And so he says, fuck it, you're probably not Blizzarding. And if you are, then I'm happy to drain another PP from you. And so he just stays and wakes on Clamp, which is great. Now he goes Chansey, which I don't really understand, because even if you dodge, what then? Like, he just Blizzards you? I don't know. Going Starmie, much more reasonable, and this one he actually gets the dodge. and he can Psychic for pressure on Chansey. But the problem here is that there's also not like a gem and he doesn't have Surf. So Psychic drops will only go so far. He will have to switch back to Lax to put on pressure. But he goes Chansey first to heal it, because it's free. But I would have gone Lax, but it's fair to also go Chansey first. Especially if his Lax doesn't have a move to scout counter, it's fair to go Chansey first, because you really want to find the fourth move before getting into danger. He body slams. He body slams again, because again, you're not scared of Clamp. You're scared of, like, okay, Clamp can hit you, but you take 10%, and if he misses, the risk is so much higher for the Cloyster. When you're full HP Cloyster against full HP Snorlax, you have to Blizzard it first, most of the time, to actually have any pressure, because after you Blizzard it first, you can threaten, now I will clamp you, and if I clamp you now, you're not switching out at 90%, you're switching out at 50% after a Blizzard plus a clamp, or 55%. So that's a lot more scary, because now your Lax can't really switch into Tauros or enemy Lax or anything really, like it's a lot more severe. But due to the Blizzard PP situation, Serpi is just fine. He's just clicking Body Slam, and on a clamp base is completely okay. Now Nails rests, but Serpi just can keep Body Slamming, and if he gets a pair on the Wake Up turn, this is dangerous. Even more dangerous than that if he gets Zapdos on the field, because Nails' team is super weak to Zapdos. I believe the only out for Nails at this point is to very quickly explode this Cloyster on whatever and try to win with Tauros Jam. Like, if you explode Cloyster on Lax instead of resting, you can probably win this game. It's not easy, but you can probably do it. But the way he's playing, very slow rests and healing, it's not going to work, man. Zapdos will just find the opportunities and overrun you. And that he does. He finds an opportunity, gets cheap on Snorlax. So, not yet a problem, but if this had crit, we were already in problem territory. Serpi goes Gengar. Try and pivot into a move that isn't Body Slam. No real risk to this, because if he EQs you, if he EQs the Gengar, you can take it. Like, you're sleeping anyway, you don't mind if you're sleeping at 100 or at 30, because you're probably dying either way. And if it doesn't EQ you, you can just kind of stay in forever, right? And even if you do end up getting predicted and switching to Lax on a Body Slam, that is literally the equivalent of the outcome you would have gotten in the first place had you just gone straight Lax. So there's basically no downside to doing those Gengar games outside of maybe your opponent will go Tauros, and then comes the real trouble. But as it stands, there's no Tauros, and Serpi gets Snorlax in on a switch back to Alakazam, which is even better than switching it in on EQ or whatever. And now if this paras and there's an Hyper Beam, it could be dangerous, but there is no para again. Now there is another Zapdos on Cloyster though, and this is starting to get bad. This Cloyster still has to wake up, so Serpi can safely Drill Peck, which he does, and if this had crit, you can basically say goodbye to the game. But as it stands, Zapdos is still forced out. Serpi here does the one thing I really dislike about this game, because Nails is playing so slow, and you have all the time in the world, and you can toss your Chansey if this Cloyster wakes up and gets annoying, which he won't, but if he starts threatening Boom, you have things to sack on the Boom, is my point. So you totally don't need to rush this, and you can get T-Waved here, and if you get T-Waved, it's kind of really fucking bad, but lucky for him, he paralyzes. And so this game is open again. Well, it's not, sorry, that's the complete opposite of what I meant. This game is not open anymore, because this Zapdos is just about to crash through. And I really think this Drill Peck was a mistake, honestly. Because you don't need imminent pressure on Chansey, and you can get it with Lax. You totally don't need to. Or you can even get it with Starmie if you fear counter. Like, you can go Lax to scout counter as long as you want. And if it is counter, then you just go Starmie, you switch in Chansey, maybe, to absorb Ice Beams, I don't know. You just have so many tools. Yeah, you don't need to risk your clear win condition yet. So I don't like that stay in, but the Chansey paralysis gives it no hope, unfortunately for Nails. And now again, okay, we see a clever switchback from Nails, because now his last hope of stopping Zapdos is catching it with Alakazam. There's a Psychic. So, and Alakazam, as I explained earlier, is very scary against Serpi's team, because Chansey can't really do anything to it. Starmie can side drop it, but you don't really want to take a T-Wave on Starmie for no reason. And so, it's dangerous. But, unfortunately, you know what else is dangerous? Zapdos. And this game is just really looking more and more over as time passes. He drill packs because he doesn't want to agility on Alakazam. The obvious play when you're given a sleep stack like this is to get the free agility and then continue. Because there will be a Tauros that can revenge kill you otherwise. But I think it's correct here to not go for the agility because you don't need to go for game yet. As I explained earlier, Nails' team, very slow, has this resting Cloyster that will continue to give you opportunities. So, totally no need to rush the agility cleanup now. Totally can play slow, just cash in the Starmie kill and go again in the future. Now he goes Starmie on T-Wave, but now it's fine, because he can... Okay, I don't like Blizzard. I think Blizzard is an attempt to just rapidly get this in recover range and switch out. But I think you have to play for drop here, because it's just a lot more threatening. Like, one Blizzard like this, it doesn't really scare Alakazam. And in fact, when Serpi doubles Lax, he gets caught with T-Wave again. And now if this Zam can Psychic crit you, you're in a bit of trouble. But he doesn't go for it, he goes for Recover, which is odd. Why would you not play for your only out, which is your only realistic out, which is Psychic crit, I don't know. Or FP even. But he doesn't go for it, and now he FPs, and now he FPs again, and he has no Zam anymore, and the game is over. Oh, sorry, I wanted to skip forward. The game is pretty much over. There is no... Well, okay, Snorlax also dies, but now look at this Zapdos, it's just doing whatever it wants. Troller tries to... Or, not Troller, Nails tries to Hyper Beam crit, but it's just hopeless. Finds Ice Beam damage out of this Chansey one last time, which is a bit of a miracle. And now... Okay, actually, despite the game being pretty much over, I really like this turn, so I have to show it. On this, Serpi goes Tauros, and I love this play because look at Nails' team. Serpi's Tauros can click Hyper Beam, and if Snorlax switches in, it tanks, but it doesn't really do anything. So you're fine against that. You're just fine against everything by going Tauros, even if you get Hyper Beam crit and killed somehow, low odds. But even if that happens, you're fine with that, because you still have this Zapdos which still wins. Even this Starmie almost wins. It's just completely unneeded to give Nails any chance to heal up this Chansey. So you got this Chansey in for the Everbeam tanking. Now you can go back out to your own Tauros, now that this Tauros is in Hyperbeam range, and just completely play super offensive. So that part of the endgame is super clean. Now, okay, he doesn't even risk the Hyper Beam miss here, which is completely just masterpiece in endgame technique. Here you just go Chansey and you spam Sing to prevent Lax from switching in on you, so that you force him to kill Chansey with Cloyster or Tauros. And from there, okay, this is bad. This is completely against the purpose of what he did. He should have just stayed in and sacked Chansey. But he does it this way with a switch out to Tauros for some reason. I don't get it, but it works. And now it's just over, because T-Bolt is 100 accuracy. He can just stay in and click it. Nails tries some kind of desperate double, but doesn't work, and it's over. Whew, well, it wasn't a particularly great game because it was a complete matchup abyss. Zapdos against that Chloe Zam team. But I thought there was still something interesting in terms of, Nails. You don't really want the Cloyster to die to Zapdos. You want the Cloyster to explode in this matchup at some point. And, things like that. There were some things to talk about at least. Meanwhile, game 1 was just luck. So that's why I showed you this game. It was game 2, Serpi 1-2-0. And Nels is now 1-3. And he has not been particularly, I feel like he has got an average luck. I feel like he just kind of deserves 1-3, which is a bit shocking because everyone rated him highly pro tournament, but I have to watch the play, and the play is middling. The prep especially, I think. Well, yeah, this is the same thing I said about Nails one of the earlier weeks. The play is not that bad. It's the prep that really lets him down. A lot of times I show replays of him just getting bodied on prep, and yeah, he has to not be so predictable because 1-3 is not good. So good luck to him on that. Obviously, fantastic player on his day and historically, but 1-3 is on pace to be, I think, probably already his worst SPL record ever, if not close to it. So yeah, Serpi bouncing back. He started 0-2, is now 2-2, courtesy of my gift, and now this series against Nails. So yeah, good on him. He's a very capable player. He got almost everything right this game except that turn where he drill packed Chansey. I really didn't like this. This turn was really ugly. You don't need to risk Zapdos like that. But other than that, very clean game, a very clean execution of the Tauros at the end, things like that. Yeah, good performance from Serpi, shaky from Nails, matchup abyss, luck abyss in game 1. Not a ton of takeaways, but definitely an interesting game to observe despite the matchup, I think. There was a lot of tiny little execution things that Serpi did well that you can learn from. Last game of the week, unfortunately also not a great game. We had 2 series that were a bit underwhelming this week, and this is one of them. Hayburner, he was very annoyed because his team has been very unlucky so far, and they're very far behind playoff pace. They're not out, but he was feeling very annoyed, and his team had already lost a week. So he didn't really feel like focusing or clicking the right buttons, and he said all of this in the RBY Discord and then to me in private as well. He's just wasn't feeling good, so I won't dig into him too much. I'm free to dig into myself when I play like shit, but when other people are genuinely feeling bad and, misplaying because of mind mindset, I would say. Yeah, that's a fair word to use. More so than because of their actual capabilities. I feel like I shouldn't dig into them too much when that is happening. So I will not. I don't want to spend too much time on this series, but I will show it because there was some interesting stuff. But I will say in advance that Chuva ended up winning this series 2-1. So this is game 2. But yeah, not you don't judge Hayburner for the plays down here, because judge Hayburner for how he played the rest of the tournament, because definitely not the same player. He was not focused. He was not, trying to win so much. So let's skip through the early parts. There's a Jinx that ends up fucking dying. And now there's a Gengar that switches in on Jinx, or on Snorlax, sorry. He threatens Hypnosis, but then he can also T-Bolt this Jinx. And now Jinx is just dead. And now Hypnosis lands on Lax. And now Chuva is a big lead, but not a completely unsurmountable lead. It's just a full Snorlax. How bad can it be? Very bad. But okay, it's playable. There's these two Exeggutors. They trade Psychics a bunch. Hayburner tries to catch Explosion, but he only catches Psychic. But now this Exeggutor at 22 has to switch out of Tauros, which is not the best. Blizzard lands into Gengar. And here we see that Hayburner switches Tauros out of Gengar. And if you remember what I said about my game against Serpi last week, that usually means one thing and one thing only. It either has no EQ or it's trying to bluff no EQ. One of these two things. And Chuva also switches to Lax, because Lax on Tauros EQ is totally fine switching. So it's a safe play, so good on him. But now we have chances, and oh, there you go. Hayburner actually rescues something out of the position. He freezes Chansey on Ice Beam. And now there's a 4v4. Despite the unplayable matchup with Gengar against Jinx and Monolax and everything, there's a 4v4. There's Exeggutor, Gengar, Snorlax, Tauros against Exeggutor, Chansey, Tauros, Unknown. So let's see what happens now. T-Wave on Lax. Hayburner very clearly doesn't have great Snorlax answers, because his own Lax is dead. Which is why I find it weird that Chuva just explodes, but at the same time Chuva doesn't get great Chansey answers. It's like he has these 3 Exploders alive and then a Tauros, so he can't really paralyze this and then pressure. He can't really touch this Chansey. He has to explode it with Snorlax, which is fascinating. And now we see that it's a Starmie in the back. And now if this Starmie has the right moves like Psychic Blizzard, it's really, really strong actually. So let's see here. T-Wave is free, so of course it's clicked. And then some turns, and then Hayburner decides to go Exeggutor, and he rests up on this Chansey. So he heals, but now enemy Exeggutor comes in. And now this Exeggutor can explode, and it's very annoying to switch into this. Like, you can go Starmie, but your Starmie is very important, and keeping it at 100 is so much better than having it at 18, which is usually the HP you have after taking Explosion. Because at 100 it can one-on-one Tauros and all of that, and it can, you know, take a T-Bolt from Gengar. It's great starting at 100 in this matchup, so and definitely not what you want. You can even go Tauros here on Explosion, which is not ideal, but you know, Gengar lets your Exeggutor switch in again safely. So you can Blizzard on if your Tauros is really Gengar walled, you can just go Tauros here. But actually Chuva doesn't even explode. He probably predicts Snorlax, which is actually Explosion on Snorlax is not even that good though, because after Explosion on Snorlax, Chuva can just go Tauros and then Body Slam, and then his Gengar is looking great, I think, because, well, he forces, I guess not, because there's a Starmie still, like, Explosion on Snorlax was not ideal, but it's definitely playable. I think Chuva probably should have exploded, it's just the best overall, but well, he gets the Explosion the turn after. Hayburner told me, well, okay, I shouldn't say what Hayburner told me, because I'm not Hayburner. Maybe he intended for this information to be private. But well, Exeggutor wins the speed type and lands Explosion. I don't know what Hayburner clicked. I totally know, but I won't tell. So now it's dangerous, because you lose Exeggutor, which was your main resource against Gengar. But you still have Starmie, and Starmie is great. And what Chuva does here is he clearly doesn't want to go Gengar on Starmie straight up, because you just die to Psychic Crit and you die to 2 Psychics, just one after the other. So what you want to do in this situation, since your Gengar presumably walls Tauros, is you want to paralyze the Starmie and then go for it with your Gengar. And maybe you can win still. And so what Chuva does is, instead of going for Starmie with the Tauros 1v1 already, he sacks Chansey to get a clean switch in on his Starmie and maybe try to wake it. But this Starmie, as it turns out, has T-Bolt as well. So there is no Wake. And so he gets these 2 sacks done. But I really don't think it's a huge deal. But it does mean that he has to play this 1v1 now. There's no running anymore. He has to Body Slam. Now Snorlax switches out. Or switches in, sorry. And now... sorry, my voice cracked super bad and then I had a coughing fit. Now we have this weird situation where Chuva can send in Gengar, but if this Gengar takes like a Blizzard or 2 Blizzards, or like a Blizzard and a T-Bolt, then it's in Psychic range. So Chuva has to try and squeeze value out of this Tauros as much as possible, and unfortunately it FPs on the switching. And it FPs again, and if he had gotten FPs again on a miss, that's fun. That's just funny. It's basically just a wasted turn. If some of these FPs hadn't happened, maybe he had much better odds to win this. But oh, he also does this, which is very cute. I thought this was a very cute play. You know it's Hyper Beaming, might as well keep Tauros. It probably won't win, but why not? But his T-Bolt doesn't crit and doesn't para. And now, if he wins this P-tie, Gengar tanks up Psychic and kills with T-Bolt. And so he only loses to crit. But he loses this P-tie. And so now he's in Psychic range. Starmie kills him. And now the only hope he has is like Hyper Beam crit. He goes for Body Slam, which I don't necessarily approve of. But on recover, Body Slam para gives him some odds. And on Psychic, Body Slam crit also gives him some odds. So I don't know. I probably would have just Hyper Beamed on recover and just gone for crit. But maybe Body Slam is better overall. I don't know. If this game happened to me, I would probably slow down and calculate actually Body Slam versus Hyper Beam on recover, because Hayburner is most likely recovering. Yeah, so I would have calced, but right now I don't really want to whip out the calculator. So we see here, it's just a few Body Slams later, Starmie gets to click Psychic and win. And that was the game that Hayburner won, game 2. Timely freeze, but also very untimely matchup. And just interesting dynamics with the endgame, with all the explosions and one side, you know, basically having to explode Snorlax for Chansey, which is unusual. Like, very, very fun, very weird endgame. And Hayburner ultimately wins off the back of this Starmie. And this Executor in part, which forced the enemy Executor to explode and cleared the way for Starmie, which is just a fun dynamic. But brutal matchup and brutal freeze aside, I think there was something interesting in that endgame. So, once again, this is like the 5th game where I show a lot of luck, but somehow an interesting endgame comes out of it, which is, it's peculiar. But that's what this week gave us. And yeah, as I said, Hayburner, the other 2 games, not brilliant, not focused, not this week, but completely understandable. And that was that. That was the last series of the week. I hope you enjoyed. I hope some of these end games sort of made you think. This is really the thinker episode. The DPP edition. If you're not familiar, DPP is said to be the thinker's generation, as a joke, because a lot of times it evolves into Thunderwaves and Ironheads. But yeah, okay, jokes aside. Honestly, a decent week, a lot of interesting games. Sucks to be me, once again. That's what I will end it on. Thanks for watching.